This video is sponsored by OneFootball. If you need a new football app on your phone, OneFootball is the place to go. You can select Celtic as your favourite team, and that'll give you all the latest Celtic news, transfer speculation, fixtures, and even live match updates if for any reason you can't make or watch a game. You can also add widgets to your home screen to keep up to date with Celtic's next fixture, who it's against, what the kick-off time is, all that stuff. And you can track leagues from across the world, league tables, top goal scorers, you name it, you'll find it all there on the OneFootball app. You can download it by clicking the link in the description of this video. It's free, absolutely free, wherever you get your apps on your phone. And it's a great way to support Celtic Fans TV. So if you haven't downloaded it already, please click the link below and get involved. Yes, folks, welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's starting 11 prediction time for the big one tomorrow at Celtic Park. It's the first derby of the season, and what a 7 days this is for Celtic. The derby tomorrow and the opening of the Champions League group stage next week at home against Real Madrid. Promises to be two absolutely electric atmospheres at Celtic Park, and hopefully two massive results for the club as well. We come into this game in great form. We've scored 21 goals in our opening 5 league games. That's the most amount of goals Celtic have ever scored in their opening 5 league games. We're in brilliant form. We're playing some irresistible football going forward. But as we know, form doesn't always dictate the results of these games, although in recent years they've tended to go along with form more often than not. I expect it to be a tight game, but if we start the way that we usually start games at Celtic Park, and if we can replicate something like that level from the February derby, where we won 3-0 from the first whistle, and play to our level, I expect us to win the game. Before we get to the starting 11, today we're doing something a bit different with this video. We're combining it with a little bit of a preview. So I spoke to Chris and Martin earlier to get their thoughts on some of the big talking points before tomorrow's game. Here's how it went. The big talking points in this game is always the midfield battle. It was a big talking point in the games towards the end of the season. How do you see that playing out tomorrow?
Yeah, I think these games tend to always be won and lost in the middle of the park. I think what maybe just gives us that little advantage is that I truly believe our front 6 is stronger than Rangers' front 6 if they're playing to form. But I think the trio of McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly, which I believe will be the starting 3, in the midfield, really have to take the game by the horns, especially in the first 10 to 15 minutes. Need to build off what will be a raucous atmosphere, even with a lunchtime kickoff. And I think that will be where the game is won and lost. If we're able to move the ball quickly through the middle 3 up through the front 3, then I think we're really going to cause Rangers a lot of problems with our pace and our movement off the ball and those triangles that we tend to, really leverage to create the space to either get in behind or be able to feed Kyogo in the box. So yeah, no doubt in my mind, Paul, you're bang on there that the midfield will really tell the tale of the game.
Martin, the thing towards the end of last season was that Rangers were maybe a bit more physical than us in midfield. They had a bit more physicality, but there's different types of physicality in football, and I think that the thing that we do have in midfield is intensity and a bit of pace. I think our pressing can be really strong, especially at home. So that's the kind of way we've got to overpower Rangers. It might not be physical strength in terms of winning duels, although we'll have to do that as you always do in these games. But it's about territorial advantage and getting after them and setting a real high tempo as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big asset that we've got just now in the team is a sense of urgency and the ability to move the ball quickly, and for the first time in a long time, a wide range of players all in positions to receive the ball. Now, we're not Barcelona, but the great Barcelona all the players would be moving all the time, and you just could not predict where the ball was going to go. and Celtic are playing that way just now, where there's movement on both sides, there's movement through the middle. We've got players with a ridiculous amount of technical ability that are comfortable on the ball. I think when you play in games like this, Rangers' tactic undoubtedly will be to suppress, to close down our players in every area of the park, whether that be the high press, whether it be the battle in the midfield, whether it be trying to double up on Jota. And that's always been Rangers' tactics. For as long as Celtic and Rangers have been in existence, they've always been the physical presence, and Celtic have always been the team that's had the flair players. But what I'm really excited about tomorrow is seeing our best starting 11 all available, all fit, all playing very, very well together, all on the same wavelength. A number of those players now really settled into the pace of the Scottish game. You know, you sit and look through that team, and for the first time in a very, very long time, you're thinking there's not a single weakness. You know, you've got players like Taylor and Starfelt and various others who in the past we were really concerned about, and then the opposition would focus on playing on that weak area of the park. Now, whether that be a single player, or at times for Celtic in the last couple of years it was a whole of the defence, or it was a goalkeeper at times. You know, for how long did we have a weakness in the goalkeeper? This Celtic team going into this game tomorrow do not have a single weakness. We don't have a whipping boy. We don't have an area of the park we were really concerned. If you've got a bad defence, then that impacts the midfield and it impacts the forward line. Tomorrow we go in with 11 players who are playing very, very well, and they're dancing about the football pitch. They're all desperate for the ball. When they get the ball, they can move it quickly. So I'm hopeful tomorrow our tactic will be show a sense of urgency, show a desire to get forward, show a desire to move the ball quickly, and don't allow Rangers to slow the game down and impose themselves on us.
And Chris, as Martin says there, it's been a long time, I think, since we went into one of these games with so many players fit, but not only fit, most of them in really good form as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously started seasons like this before where we've won our first 5-6 games domestically, you know, whether that's in the League Cup in combination with the league games. But I don't ever remember us winning so emphatically in a number of the games. This is definitely the most enjoyable start to any season I can remember as a Celtic fan, probably only surpassed by 2000 when we beat Rangers 6-2. And it was totally out of the blue because nobody really knew what the first game under Martin O'Neill was going to be like. And then we were 3-0 up after 12 minutes. I'm not anticipating that we'll be quite as rambunctious and, you know, all over them tomorrow. But I do believe our form, at least based on what I've seen so far, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic that we can come out on the right side of the game tomorrow.
Martin, we've never scored 21 goals in the first 5 league games. This is the most goals we've ever scored this early in a league season. What are the headaches in terms of team selection for the manager tomorrow? I think there's possibly 2. Do you think that's the consensus?
I think it probably is too. Just on the goal front, that 21 goal ratio, I've not worked out exactly, but I think the record number of goals scored in any 38 league campaign is 116, I think. I'll maybe get some of this wrong because I'm doing it from memory. I'm sure I read something on it the other day. 116. If we keep scoring at this rate, we'll be 150, 160 goals. We'll absolutely destroy that 116. Now, I'm not saying we're going to score 9 goals every 6 games in a single game, but put the 9 to one side. We've had a 5, 2 2s and a 3. You know, we're scoring for fun. And the goals that they've lost, they've only lost a couple, I think, a couple of single goals. So again, you know, if you look at over the course of the season, we're going to lose about 20 goals. So long may that continue. Team selection, I think there are 2. There's who's going to play alongside CCV. I think most would expect it to be Starfelt, just on the basis of the amount of time they spent together and the record as a pairing. Starfelt was a little bit ropey at times against United. So it'll be interesting to see does Jens get the call, or is it Starfelt? So I think that's decision number 1. I suspect Ange will go with Starfelt just because he knows the Scottish game. He's been in and around the league a bit longer, and he feels like a little bit less of a risk, although he is prone to the odd mistake here or there. I think there's less chance of making mistakes because everybody around about him's in form. Taylor's brilliant, Juranovic is brilliant, CCV is the unsung hero. He's just brilliant every single week, and he mops up everything that he needs to mop up. But the other big one, of course, is Abada going to get a start, or will he go with Maeda? I personally am really hoping he goes with Abada, as much as we know what Maeda brings. Abada's just in sensational form, not just against United, but over a prolonged period. I think he's been a bit unlucky to be benched in the first place, but he hasn't let us down when he's come on, and I really hope that he gets a start. I'm not as fussed about who gets the call alongside CCV, but I'm really hoping it's Abada instead of Maeda, with Maeda to come off the bench and give us a bit of energy should that be needed later in the game. And I think that when I say should that be needed, I think it's a good tactics regardless. If we're 2 or 3 goals up, come on and get that 4th, 5th and 6th goal. And if we're behind, come on and really press high and help us break the deadlock if that's required. I don't think we'll need to come back from behind, but he's got a role to play in the game regardless. But I think that's a too big call, isn't it? It's a 2 big ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, we discussed the whole Maeda versus Abada debate the other night. Do you think, I'm just asking, I'm thinking about asking Ange this question, and you know exactly what his response would be, but Ange isn't here, so I can ask you it. Do you think that going with Maeda is more of a, for want of a better word, defensive selection, and going with Abada as a more attacking selection? Because we know that Maeda's strengths, a lot of them, his biggest strengths are against the ball in terms of his pressing, his work rate, and he's brilliant he's brilliant going forward as well. Picks up so many good positions, so much speed on the counter attack. But Abada probably gives you less defensively. So do you see it like that?
I think that is the right way to look at that dilemma, Paul. The thing with Maeda is he's more likely to nullify the threat of Tavernier down the right with his ability to press and close space. And I think, at least on form, that's where Rangers continue to look the most dangerous. Kent hasn't been quite the same player for the better part of 6 to 9 months. I know he can be a bit of a whipping boy for some of the Rangers fans because he's got talent, but he doesn't always show up. But he has had a record against us of playing well and scoring goals. But I think if the manager feels that that's where Rangers could really potentially hurt us the most, then I think he would go for Maeda, and then Jota would be over on the right. And then I like our chances down the right side of our attacking lineup. But just thinking back to how Abada played in the 3-0 game last season, like just him and Juranovic just absolutely ran the show down that right side. And that's what you can get with O'Reilly's ability to get in those pockets of space. Just remember that second goal. I think it was CCV to Juranovic up. They did a triangle inside. The ball gets laid off by Abada to Hatate, and it's in the net. And it was literally 10 seconds from one end of the field to the other, and that is how quickly. So I don't envy him that decision. I think that's the only decision. I'm certain Starfelt will start, and I'm not changing my mind despite what you just asked me. I still stand by that Abada will start the game tomorrow.
Martin, I suppose a consideration and who we play it. I know it's not who we play at right wing because Jota is going to play regardless. And if Abada starts, Jota will be in the left. But you think if Maeda gets the nod, then Jota might start on the right and those two will interchange. But maybe a consideration as to who Rangers will play at left back, because Barisic is an absolute nightmare in that 3-0 game at Celtic Park. He was also beaten in a very similar position for the first goal that Jota scored in the 1-1 draw at Celtic Park after the split as well. They've got the boy Yilmaz, who's a new player for them. They've spent a bit of money on him. Hasn't started too many games so far and has never experienced this derby. So interesting to see who they go with at left back, and then in turn who we do start on the right hand side. Yeah,
listen, I'm not a football manager, never will be, but I tend to focus on what's our strengths rather than what's the opposition's weaknesses, and Ange appears to have that philosophy as well. So I'll not change my style of play. I'll go out and play the way I want to play and the way that I believe the game should be played, regardless of the opposition. It's quite a brave way to approach every single game. You're Dundee United last weekend versus Real Madrid during the week, and going to go in with the same philosophy and the same approach and the same tactic. It doesn't mean to say you won't tinker with certain things and think about the Abada versus the Maeda, which is a really interesting debate around defensive versus offensive. I do think across that midfield you have got when we talk about Juranovic and the form that he's got versus O'Reilly being in there to protect Abada a little bit defensively. So I think if you get the right players on the park with the right attitude, you can make sure that the right protection. So you talk about Tavo. Let's not let Tavernier get anywhere near an offensive position by putting Abada on and pushing him back. And he's not going to get out his 18-yard box or his own half because Abada's just going to be all over him the whole game. So it's that whole thing around, you put on a player who's going to nullify their offensive play, or you're going to put somebody that's going to put them on the back foot in the first place. We're at home. We've got the crowd behind us. We're playing fantastically well, and there's not a single player in there that's lacking in confidence and isn't in form. So I generally think it's all about us, and I would play the players who we believe to be the best players. And because you don't know their team either, you can predict their team, but you won't know their team until our team's been picked. So you could go and pick a team, guessing their team, and then be completely wrong. So I don't think the manager's that type, and I don't think he'll be thinking that. He'll be thinking about what's his best 11, and I think he'll go with Abada. I genuinely do. But that for me, that's a big decision. I'm confident he'll stick with Starfelt, and it'll just be down to Abada. The middle two takes care of itself now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hatate and O'Reilly in there. I think they're a stick on to start. So it really is just down to those two.
Yeah, that's a big one, Chris. This is almost a rhetorical question because there's so many cliches that go along with these games. But what do we have to do tomorrow to go and win this?
Just play to form, right? Trust in the process that the manager has set out for this team. And to Martin's point, he does not change the way he expects, not once, the way he expects the team to play regardless of the opposition. I do believe 11 on 11 and squad versus squad, we have the stronger in both departments. And if we play to our potential, we will win the game.
Good to get the thoughts of the guys on the game there before we get to the team. Obviously, the big talking points are always midfield in these games, but the selection headaches for Ange tomorrow are at centre half and in the wide positions with Abada and Maeda, both in good form, both bringing different dynamics and attributes to the team. So those are the two selection headaches that the manager has, but you trust in whichever one he chooses, given how he's got the team playing and the form that everyone is in. And we've seen that on Wednesday night with that 4-1 victory against Ross County. 9 changes, a very different team, an 11 that's probably never played together, but the cohesion's still the same, the attacking fluidity is still the same, and a really, really good win at what is a difficult venue to go to in the last couple of seasons for Celtic. So let's get to the starting 11 for tomorrow. This is the lineup that I think Ange will go with. We'll start in goals, as we always do, with Joe Hart. I don't think there's any doubt that he'll start this game. I think Siegrist, it was a good opportunity to give him his first start on Wednesday. I expect Hart to come back in, even though he picked up that cut at Tannadice last weekend. He'll come back in, a huge leader in this team, and we know that he can make big saves in these games when called upon. He did it last season, particularly in that game at Ibrox that we won 2-1 in April. So he's a huge player for us. He'll be in goals. I think the back four will look like this. I think it will be Josip Juranovic at right back. We know it will be Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's been excellent, and he is the first choice in that centre-half berth alongside him. I expect it to be Carol Starfelt. I think that's the partnership that was so strong throughout last season, and I think it's the one the manager will go with tomorrow. Jens has impressed since he arrived, but I don't think the manager will select him. I just think that's the strongest partnership. It's the one that's got the most miles on the clock, the one with the best understanding, and I think that's why Carter-Vickers and Starfelt will start together tomorrow. At left back, it will obviously be Greg Taylor. Bernabe got his first start on Wednesday, but there's no danger that Greg Taylor doesn't start this game tomorrow. He's been in brilliant form so far this season. And again, think back to the back end of last season. Some of Greg Taylor's best performances have come in these games against Rangers, so it'd be nice to see another one from him tomorrow. The midfield, I think, picks itself. I think the captain will play in the deeper position, and Hatate and Matt O'Reilly will be in front of him. They three last weekend were absolutely superb, particularly Rio Hatate in the first half, who I thought was the best player in the pitch, but for Kyogo, because Kyogo scored a hat-trick in inside 30 odd minutes. Hatate and O'Reilly, again, key factors in that 3-0 derby in February. Not having played together for very long at that time, if at all. Now their understanding is much, much better, and as I say, the way the team is functioning going forward, it's like a well-oiled machine, and those two are key in that. I think that will be the midfield three without a doubt tomorrow. Now we come to the wide positions. I don't know. I think it is the toss of a coin. I asked the guys there in the preview whether it signals an attacking intention or a slightly more defensive intention to set up with Maeda versus Abada, because you probably get a bit more out of Maeda defensively than you do Abada. But it's a tough one for the manager because Maeda's played well recently, but Abada came into the team last weekend and scored a hat-trick, got an assist, and I know he started the game during the week, but I don't think we can read too much into the players that started against Ross County. Abada's performance last weekend ordinarily would be enough to get you to keep your place in the team. It could be either. It honestly could be either. But I'm going to go with Jota on the right-hand side. He is the one man that will play regardless of who the other winger is. He's the main man. He's been the star player so far this season. I expect him to be on the right-hand side because I think Dyson Maeda will get the nod on the left. I think this is probably the strongest team that Ange will pick for these big games. I think it involves Maeda. Now, it could be Abada tomorrow, but be Maeda on Tuesday against Real Madrid. That is a game where we're going to need a bit more defensive intensity, a bit more off the ball, because you expect us to have to defend possibly for lengthy spells in that game against the European champions. I think it'll be Maeda tomorrow. These games are going to demand a lot physically and mentally of the players, so it wouldn't surprise me to see 2 or 3 changes possibly between the team that starts tomorrow and the team that starts against Real Madrid. Maybe 3's a lot, but I think the manager has a bit of a luxury now because he's got a deep squad. He's got guys that can come in and step up and perform. And as I say, these games are going to be very, very demanding. I just think he's going to give Maeda the nod tomorrow, and through the middle it will be Kyogo Furuhashi because he is the man in for him. He scored a hat-trick last weekend. He's opened the scoring for Celtic in 4 consecutive league matches. And as I say, he's in brilliant form, and I think he's yet to face Rangers in brilliant form. You think back to that first derby last season, I think it was his second game for the club or something like that. He played on the left-hand side. Edouard went through the middle. And then he missed the February derby. He missed the April derby at Ibrox. He was just back from injury to get time off the bench in the semi-final that we lost in extra time. And he did start the 1-1 draw at Celtic Park after the split. But again, he'd been out for 4 months and he wasn't long back from injury. He wasn't in brilliant form, wasn't really up to speed yet. He is in form now. He's fully fit, and I expect a big performance from him tomorrow. And with the form he's in, if he gets chances tomorrow, you would back him to put them away. So there you go. That is the 11 that I think Ange Postecoglou will pick for Celtic tomorrow. What a prospect these next 5 days with these 2 massive games. But first of all, it is tomorrow. I expect a brilliant atmosphere. It's the first time there's been a derby on a Saturday for a long, long time, and we've got to give the players an atmosphere that they can really harness and go and put in a brilliant performance from the word go. We've got to take control of it, do all the things that you need to do in these games. That's win the tackles, win the second balls, set the tempo, pin Rangers back. We're the home team, and if we can do that and keep up this form, play to our level, I think we can win the game, and that would give us a nice 5-point lead at this early stage in the season. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Join us tomorrow after the game for the full-time reaction and the post-match pint from Malone's as well. Wherever you're watching the game around the world tomorrow, enjoy it, and we'll see you after the game. Cheers.